The Terran fleet came out of faster-than-light travel like thunder breaking through clouds. The carrier Defiance was at the center, a massive ship that dwarfed everything else in the area. Around it flew the destroyers Silent Thunder, Dawnbreaker, and Iron Wolf, fighter craft launched from the carrier's base. Spreading across the battlefield like angry insects, on the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Shinhai 1 stood with her hands clasped behind her back. Her old eyes took in the scene before her. The damaged Steadfast hiding in the asteroids. The 5 Korax ships that had been hunting it. And beyond them, the transport carrying 400 innocent prisoners. "Commander, oh," she said to her tactical officer, "what is the status of the Steadfast?" Junseo checked his screens. "Heavy damage, Admiral. Multiple hull breaches. They have lost 1 engine, but they are still fighting." "Of course they are." There was pride in her voice. "They are human." She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Shinhai 1. Our mission is clear. Disable the Korax raiders and secure the prisoner transport. We take no prisoners ourselves today. Anyone who enslaves innocent people does not deserve our mercy. However, do not destroy the transport. There are 400 lives on that ship." "Yes, Admiral." The captains responded together. The battle began. Captain Im Nari pushed her ship, the Silent Thunder, forward with aggressive speed. She had been waiting for a fight like this her whole career. Not a battle for territory or politics, but a battle for something that truly mattered. "Target the lead raider," she ordered. "Full weapons, aim for their engines." The Silent Thunder opened fire. Blue and white energy beams cut through space and struck the Korax flagship. The slaver ship's shields flashed and then failed. The engines exploded in a ball of fire. Torx Khan watched in horror as his fleet fell apart around him. One moment he had been the hunter, ready to destroy a single annoying patrol ship. The next moment, he was surrounded by human warships. This was not possible. The humans had no treaty with the Velith. Why would they come? Why would they risk their ships and their lives for a species that meant nothing? "Fall back," he screamed at his remaining ships. "Fall back to the transport. We will use the prisoners as shields." But the humans were faster. Commander Junseo had planned for this. Fighter craft from the Defiance swarmed the transport, not attacking but blocking any escape. The 3 other raiders tried to protect their commander, but the destroyers cut them apart with precise, deadly fire. In less than 20 minutes, it was over. The Korax raiders were drifting in space, their engines destroyed, their weapons silent. Torx Khan's flagship was crippled. The transport sat in the middle of the battlefield, surrounded by human ships. "Korax vessel," Admiral High 1 broadcast. "You will power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your prisoners will be freed. If you resist, we will destroy you. This is your only chance." There was a long silence. Then Torx Khan's voice came through the communication system. He sounded defeated and confused. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you fight for them?" "They are Velith. They are nothing. They have nothing to offer you." High 1 considered the question. She thought about all the reasons she could give. Treaties, politics, strategy. But none of those were the real answer. "Because they called for help," she said. "And because no one should ever cry out and hear only silence." Torx Khan had no response to that. Boarding teams from the Defiance and the Silent Thunder entered the Korax transport. They moved through the dark corridors with weapons ready, but they met no resistance. The Korax crew had surrendered. They knew they were beaten. When the soldiers reached the cargo bay where the prisoners were held, they found 400 Velith sitting in chains, looking at them with fear and wonder. The humans moved among them, breaking locks and cutting chains. One by one, the Velith were freed. Kethsal felt the chains fall from her arms. She looked up at the human soldier standing over her. He was young, with kind eyes and a wound on his arm that was still bleeding. He smiled at her. "You are safe now," he said. K-E-T-H-Soul did not know what to say. She had believed she would die as a slave, never seeing her daughter again. And now this stranger, this human from a death world far away, had come to save her. Why? She whispered. It was the same question Torxcan had asked, but she asked it differently. She asked it with tears in her eyes. The young soldier shrugged. Because it was the right thing to do. On the damaged Steadfast, Captain Deho finally let himself breathe. The battle was over. They had survived. Medical ships were on their way to help his injured crew. The fleet was securing the prisoners. Admiral High One's face appeared on his screen. She looked at him with those sharp old eyes that had seen so much. "Captain Deho," she said, "you did well. Your actions saved 400 lives today. Thank you, Admiral. Though I almost lost my ship doing it. Almost losing your ship for the right reasons is better than keeping it safe for the wrong ones." She paused. "I am recommending you for a commendation. And a new ship. The Steadfast has earned her retirement." Deo looked around at his damaged bridge, at his tired, wounded crew, at Ji-Yan, who was finally letting Taeyang treat the cut on her forehead, at Sumin, who was leaning against the wall with exhaustion in her eyes. "Thank you, Admiral," he said. "But if it is all the same to you, I would like to keep this crew." High One smiled. It made her look younger. "Of course, Captain. They followed you into hell. They deserve to stay with you." Hours later, the Steadfast limped back to Relay 7, escorted by the Silent Thunder. The medical frigates had already arrived. The 60 survivors were being treated. But they all came out to watch when the transport carrying their lost friends and family landed on the station. Rethvang was waiting at the front of the crowd. Her injured arm was in a proper bandage now. Her eyes searched the faces of the Velith coming off the transport. She looked and looked, her small body tense with hope and fear. Then she saw her. "Mother!" Quetzal ran forward and caught her daughter in her forearms. They held each other and cried. Around them, other families were reuniting. The station that had been filled with grief and fear was now filled with tears of joy. Administrator Cathari approached the group of human officers who had gathered to watch. Deho was there, along with Admiral High One, Captain Nari, and the others. Cathari stopped in front of them and struggled to find words. "I have lived for many years," the old Velith finally said. "I have seen much cruelty in this galaxy. Species fighting over territory. Slavers taking the weak. The powerful ignoring the powerless. I believe this was simply how things were." Cathari looked at the humans with eyes full of wonder. "But you came. We are nothing to you. We have no treaties, no value, nothing to offer. And still you came. You bled for us. You died for us. Your captain chased 5 ships alone because he would not let our people be taken." The administrator turned to Deho. "Why? We are no one. We have nothing. Why did you come?" Deho thought about the question. He thought about his crew, who had followed him without hesitation. He thought about Admiral Haywan, who had sent a fleet for strangers. He thought about all the humans across the galaxy who had heard his message and answered. "Because you called," he said simply. "And because we decided a long time ago that we would not be the kind of people who ignore a cry for help. No matter who is calling." High One stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but strong. "Our species has a difficult history. We have not always been kind. We have made terrible mistakes. But we learned from them. We made a promise to ourselves that we would be better, that we would answer when someone called, that we would fight for those who could not fight for themselves." She looked at the reunited families. at the children holding their parents, at the old and the young together again. "This is who we chose to be," she said. "This is what it means to be human." The Velith watched the humans with new understanding. These strange creatures from a death world were not just violent and strong. They were kind. They cared about people they had never met. They risked everything for strangers. The galaxy would hear about what happened at Relay 7. The story would spread from station to station, from planet to planet. The species who had ignored the Velith distress signal would learn what the humans had done. And they would wonder if perhaps they had been wrong about these Deathworlders. Perhaps humanity was not just dangerous. Perhaps they were something more. As the Steadfast prepared to leave, Rethvang broke away from her mother and ran to Captain Deho. She looked up at the tall human who had promised to try to save her mother. "You kept your promise," she said. Deho knelt down to meet her eyes, just as he had done before. "I told you I would try," he said. Rethvang threw her small arms around him. Deho, surprised, gently hugged her back. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for answering." Deho smiled. And somewhere in the stars, the story of a desperate cry and the Deathworlder navy that answered it became legend. Because that is what humans do. They answer. The Korax fleet came out of faster-than-light travel, like a pack of wolves hunting a wounded deer. 5 ships against 1. Their commander, a scarred veteran named Torx Khan, sat in his chair on the lead raider and watched a small human vessel on his screen. "1 ship," he said, his voice rough with contempt. "They sent 1 ship to stop us." His second officer moved closer. "The humans are known for being stubborn, Commander. Perhaps we should not take them lightly." "Stubborn?" Torx Khan laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Stupid is more accurate. We will destroy them and continue to the Void Belt. The prisoners below are worth too much to waste time on foolish games." He gave the order to attack. The 4 raider ships spread out in a hunting formation and moved toward the Steadfast. On the bridge of the Steadfast, Captain Yoon Daeho watched the enemy approach. His crew was ready. They knew what they faced. They knew their chances were bad. But they also knew why they were here. "Remember the plan," Daeho said calmly. "We do not need to destroy them. We do not need to win. We only need to survive long enough for the fleet to arrive." "How long is that, sir?" asked the helm officer. "About 4 hours." No one spoke. 4 hours against 5 enemy ships was a very long time. "Ji Yeon, what do we have ahead?" Lieutenant Park Ji Yeon checked her sensors. "There is an asteroid field about 20 minutes from here, Captain. Dense rocks and heavy mineral interference. It will make targeting difficult for both sides." "Then that is where we go." "Set course." The Steadfast turned and raced toward the asteroid field. The Korax followed, firing their weapons as they came. Blue energy bolts flashed past the human ship, some coming dangerously close. The first hit came without warning. The ship shook violently, and alarms began to scream. Taeyang grabbed his medical bag as he was thrown against a wall. "Damage report," Daeho demanded. "Mire hull damage on Deck 3. An officer reported. "Shields are holding at 80%. Keep moving. Get us into those asteroids." The Steadfast plunged into the asteroid field like a fish diving into a coral reef. Massive rocks floated all around them, some as big as buildings, others as big as mountains. The helm officer flew with incredible skill, turning and twisting between the obstacles. The Korax hesitated. Their ships were bigger and less flexible. The asteroid field was dangerous for them. But Torx Khan was angry now. He had been hunting easy prey for many years. He did not like prey that fought back. "Follow them," he ordered. "All ships into the field. Destroy that vessel." The Korax raiders entered the asteroids, and the hunt became a deadly game of speed and shadows. Sergeant Beek Su-min stood in the main corridor with her security team. They had sealed all the doors and prepared defensive positions. If the Korax tried to board the ship, they would face a fight at every step. The Korax prefer to take ships intact, she told her team. They want to capture humans alive. We are valuable to them as slaves. That means they will eventually try to board us. When they do, we make them pay for every meter. Our team nodded. They were scared, but they trusted her. They trusted their captain. And they believed in what they were fighting for. The battle continued in the asteroid field. The Steadfast was smaller and faster, using the rocks as shields and hiding places. But the Korax were experienced hunters. They spread out and tried to trap the human ship between them. Another hit shook the Steadfast. This one was worse. Lights flickered. Something exploded somewhere below. Shields at 40%, the tactical officer reported. We have a fire on deck too. Send a team to fight the fire. Keep flying. The helm officer's hands were steady on the controls, but sweat ran down his face. He was pushing the ship harder than it was designed to go. Every turn was a risk. Every second was a battle against physics and luck. In the cargo bay of the main Korax transport, 400 Velith prisoners sat in chains. They could hear the sounds of battle through the metal walls. They could feel the ship shake when weapons fired. They did not know what was happening, but they could tell that something had changed. Kethsal, the mother of young Rethvang, looked at the other prisoners around her. They were afraid. They had given up hope. When the Korax took them, they had believed that no one would save them. No one ever saved the Velith, but now there was fighting. Someone was attacking the slavers. Someone had come. Listen, Kethsal said quietly to those near her. Someone is fighting for us. Who? Another prisoner asked. Who would fight the Korax for us? Kethsal did not know the answer. But she felt something she had not felt in 2 days. Hope. Back on the Steadfast, the situation grew worse. One of the Korax raiders had gotten close enough to fire directly at the engines. The ship lurched and slowed. Engine 2 is offline, the engineer reported. I can give you maybe 70% power from Engine 1. That will have to be enough, Deho said. Another hit. And another. The Steadfast was taking too much damage. The shields were failing. The hull was breached in 3 places. 2 crew members were dead. 7 more were injured. Ji-yeon had a cut on her forehead that was bleeding into her eye. But she refused to leave her station. Captain, she said. Her voice strained. I am picking up a communication from the Korax commander. He wants to talk to you. Put him through. The screen changed to show Torx Khan's scarred face. The Korax was no longer laughing. He looked frustrated and confused. Human, he said. You fight well for a dead species. But this is finished. Surrender your ship, and I will let your crew live. You will serve us in the slave markets, but you will live. Deho looked at the face of the slaver. He thought about the 400 Velith in chains below those ships. He thought about little Rethvang waiting for her mother. He thought about what kind of galaxy like creatures like Torx can exist. I have a different offer, Deho said. Release the prisoners and leave. This is your only warning. Torx Khan stared at him. Then he laughed again, but this time there was no amusement in it. Only disbelief. 1 ship threatens 5? You Deathworlders are truly insane. Deho smiled. It was the smile of a man who knew something his enemy did not. Not insane, he said. Just early. At that moment, Ji-yeon looked up from her console. Her eyes were wide with relief and joy. Captain, she said, I am detecting multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Human signatures. The screen changed to show the tactical map. New icons appeared. Many of them. The carrier Defiance, 3 destroyers including the Silent Thunder, and support vessels. They had arrived. The Terran fleet had heard the cry, and now they were here. The inside of Relay 7 was dark and cold. Emergency lights gave a weak red glow that made shadows dance on the walls. Sergeant Beek Soo Min walked carefully through the damaged hallways, her weapon ready but pointed down. Behind her, 4 security officers and Ensign Cho Tae-young with his medical bag followed in silence. The air smelled of burned metal and something else. Fear. Soo Min had smelled fear. The 4. It had a special quality that was hard to forget. "Hello?" she called out. Her voice echoed in the empty corridor. "We are from the Terran vessel Steadfast. We are here to help." There was no answer, but Soo Min heard something. A small sound, like someone trying not to breathe. She looked at one of her officers and pointed to a closed door on the left side of the hallway. They moved toward it slowly. "We are friends," Soo Min said, keeping her voice soft. "We heard your distress signal. We came to help you." The door opened a little bit. A face appeared in the gap. It was a Velith. The species looked like tall insects with 4 arms and large eyes that reflected light like jewels. This one was old, with gray coloring on the parts of its shell that should have been bright blue. "Humans?" the Velith said. Its voice was weak and filled with surprise. "Humans came?" "Yes," Soo Min said. She put her weapon away and held up her empty hands. "I am Sergeant Beek Soo Min. We have a medical officer with us. Are there injured people here?" The door opened fully. Behind the old Velith, Soo Min could see others. Many others. They were crowded into what looked like a storage room. Some were injured. Some were very young. Some were very old. All of them looked at the humans with eyes full of confusion and something that might have been hope. "I am Kethari," the old Velith said. "I am the administrator of this station. Or I was, before." The words stopped. Kethari could not finish the sentence. "We saw the damage," Soo Min said gently. "We know the Corax were here." At the name, several of the Velith made sounds of fear and pain. Some of the young ones began to shake. Kethari raised one of its 4 hands to calm them. "They came 2 days ago," Kethari said. "They gave us a choice. Give them half of our people willingly, or they would take everyone. We refused. We thought—" The administrator stopped and looked at the floor. "We thought someone would come to help us. We sent our distress signal. We waited. No one came. We came," Soo Min said. "Yes, but too late for most of us." Kethari's voice was hollow. "They took 400 of our people. They left only those they thought were worthless. The old, the sick, the very young. They said we were not worth the space on their ships." Tae-young stepped forward. His face was calm and professional, but his eyes showed his anger at what he was hearing. "I am a medical officer. Please, let me help your injured." Kethari looked at him for a long moment. In Velith culture, allowing a stranger to touch you was a sign of great trust. Most species would never offer medical help to the Velith. They were considered unimportant in the galaxy. Their lives did not matter to others. "You would touch us?" Kethari asked. "Of course," Tae-young said. He was already opening his medical bag. "That is why I am here." He moved into the room and began to examine the injured. The Velith watched him with amazement. This human, this creature from a death world, was being gentle with them. He was careful with their injuries. He spoke softly to them and explained what he was doing before he did it. Soo-min reported to Captain Daeho through her communicator. "Captain, we have found the survivors. Approximately 60 Velith. Many are injured. The Corax took 400 prisoners." On the Steadfast, Daeho closed his eyes for a moment. 400 people in chains, being taken to be sold like objects. The thought made his stomach turn with anger. "Understood," he said. "Do what you can for them. I am coming over." A few minutes later, Daeho walked into the storage room where the survivors were gathered. Tae-young was treating a young Velith who had a deep cut on one of her arms. The young one was watching the human with wide, curious eyes. "Does it hurt?" she asked. "A little," Tae-young admitted. "But I will be gentle. I promise. Why are you helping us?" Tae-young paused in his work. He looked at the young Velith with kind eyes. "Because you are hurt. And because helping people who are hurt is what I do." The young one was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My name is Rethvang. The Korax took my mother." Tae-young felt his heart break a little. He finished treating her wound and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I am sorry, Rethvang. I am very sorry." Captain Daeho approached Keth-Ari. The administrator stood a little straighter when the human captain came near. There was something about this man that commanded respect. Not because he was loud or aggressive, but because he was calm and certain. "Administrator Keth-Ari," Daeho said, bowing his head slightly in greeting. "I am Captain Yoon Daeho. I want you to know that we will do everything we can to help you." "You have already done more than we expected," Keth-Ari said. "We sent our signal into the darkness. We did not truly believe anyone would answer. The galaxy does not care about the Velith. We are small. We are weak. We have nothing to offer." "You called for help," Daeho said. "That is enough." Keth-Ari stared at him. In all its long years, the administrator had never met a species like humans. They were strange creatures. They came from a dangerous world that should have killed them. They were violent and strong. And yet, here was this human captain, speaking words of kindness to a species that meant nothing in the politics of the galaxy. "The Korax," Keth-Ari said. "They are taking our people to the Void Belt, to the slave markets. Once they arrive there, our people will be sold and scattered across the galaxy. We will never see them again." "How long until they reach the Void Belt?" 3 days. Maybe less if they push their engines." Daeho was quiet. He was thinking. The Steadfast was a patrol ship, not a warship. They had weapons, but they were meant for defense, not attack. Going after a Korax raider fleet was dangerous. It might be impossible, but 400 people were in chains. "Ji Yeon," Daeho said into his communicator. "Can you track the Korax ships?" "Yes, Captain." Ji Yeon's voice came back. "I have their trajectory. They are moving fast, but we are faster. We could catch them in about 6 hours. How many ships?" There was a pause. "I count 5, sir. 1 large transport and 4 raiders for protection. 5 ships against 1. The numbers were not good." Su-min looked at the captain with concern in her eyes. She knew what he was thinking, and she was worried that young Rethvang had been listening. She walked up to Captain Daeho, her injured arm wrapped in white bandages that Tae-young had applied. She looked up at the tall human with her jewel-like eyes. "Will you save my mother?" she asked. Daeho knelt down so he could meet her eyes. It was something most species would never do. Getting low showed weakness in many cultures. But Daeho did not care about that. He cared about this child who had lost her mother to monsters. "I will try," he said. "I promise you, I will try." He stood up and looked at Keth-Ari. "We will pursue the Korax. But I cannot fight 5 ships alone. I need to call for help. Who will come?" Keth-Ari asked. "No one answered our signal." "Why would they answer yours?" Daeho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who knew something that others did not. Because when a human calls for help, other humans answer. Always. He walked out of the room and headed back to the Steadfast. He had a message to send. A message that would travel across the stars and reach the ears of those who would not ignore it. The Deathworlder Navy was about to hear a desperate cry, and they would answer. Captain Yoon Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the Steadfast and prepared to do something that would change everything. He looked at Lieutenant Park Ji-yeon and nodded. "Open a channel," he said. "Terran military emergency frequency. I want everyone to hear this." Ji-yeon's fingers moved across her console. "Channel open, sir." Dae-ho took a deep breath. His voice would now travel across the stars, reaching every human ship in the sector and beyond. What he said next would either bring help or prove that humans were no different from the other species who had ignored the Velith signal. "This is Captain Yoon Dae-ho of the Terran patrol vessel Steadfast," he began. "I am sending this message on the emergency frequency because lives are at stake. 2 days ago, a Velith mining station called Relay 7 was attacked by Korax slavers. 400 civilians were taken. 60 survivors remain at the station. The Korax are heading for the Void Belt with their prisoners. They will reach the slave markets in approximately 3 days." He paused, letting his words sink in across the darkness of space. "The Steadfast is in pursuit, but we are 1 ship against 5. I am requesting any available assistance. These are innocent people who called for help and received none. They are counting on us now. Dae-ho out." The channel closed. The bridge was quiet. Everyone knew that they had just put themselves in great danger. If no one responded, they would face the Korax alone. And they would probably die. "Course laid in for the Korax fleet," the helm officer reported. "We can catch them in 6 hours. Then let us begin," Dae-ho said. "Maximum speed." The Steadfast jumped to faster-than-light travel, chasing the slavers across the void. Far away, at Terran Navy Command Station, Admiral Shinhai-1 was reviewing reports in her office. She was an old woman with white hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The other officers called her the Iron Grandmother, though never to her face. She had served in the Navy for 40 years and had seen more battles than she could count. But she had never lost her belief in what the Navy was supposed to do. Her communication screen blinked with an incoming message. Emergency frequency. She pressed the button to listen. Dae-ho's voice filled her office. She listened to every word without moving. When the message ended, she sat very still for a long moment. Her aide, a young officer named Kwon Min-soo, entered the room. "Admiral, you heard the transmission?" "I heard it. Our analysts have reviewed the situation. Relay 7 is outside our protection zone. The Velith have no treaty with Earth. Sending ships, there would be." He searched for the right word. "Complicated." "Complicated," Hai-1 repeated. The word sounded ugly when she said it. "Politically, I mean. There would be questions. Why did we send military assets to help a species that is not our ally? What do we gain from this action? Some members of the council might object." Hai-1 stood up slowly. She walked to the window of her office and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a single patrol ship was chasing 5 enemy vessels to save 400 strangers. The captain of that ship had not asked what he would gain. He had simply heard a cry for help and answered. 400 people are in chains, Min-soo," she said. Her voice was quiet but hard as steel. "They are being taken to be sold like animals. They will be separated from their families. They will suffer for the rest of their lives. And you want to talk about politics?" "I am just explaining what others might say, Admiral." Hai-1 turned to face him. Her eyes were cold. "Let them say what they want. I did not join this Navy to stand by while innocent people are enslaved. And I did not become Admiral so I could make comfortable decisions." She walked past him to the command center. Officers looked up as she entered. She was small and old, but when she walked into a room, everyone paid attention. I want the carrier Defiance to change course immediately, she ordered. They are to proceed to intercept the Korax fleet at maximum speed. A tactical officer looked at his screen. Admiral, the Defiance is currently on training exercises. It will take them 14 hours to reach the intercept point. Then they should start now. What else do we have? 3 destroyers in the nearby sectors. The Silent Thunder, the Dawnbreaker, and the Iron Wolf. Send them all. And dispatch 2 medical frigates to Relay 7 for the survivors. The officers began to work, sending orders across the fleet. But one of them hesitated. Admiral, he said carefully, is this authorized? The Council has not approved military action in this sector. I-1 looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, I am the Admiral of this fleet. I am authorizing it now. If the Council has a problem with that, they can discuss it with me after we save those people. Across the sector, ships began to change course. On the destroyer Silent Thunder, Captain Imnari received her orders and smiled grimly. She was a young captain, but she had a reputation for being fast and fearless. All hands, she announced to her crew, we have new orders. A patrol ship is chasing Korax slavers who have taken 400 civilians. We are going to help them. Battle stations. Her crew moved with purpose. They had trained for situations like this. They had hoped they would never face one. But now that the moment had come, not one of them hesitated. On the carrier Defiance, Commander Ojin Seo studied the tactical map in the war room. He was a serious man who believed in planning every detail before a battle. But sometimes, he knew, there was no time for perfect plans. The Steadfast is 1 patrol ship, he said to his team. They are going against 5 Korax raiders. Even if we push our engines to the limit, we will not arrive until after they engage. They will be destroyed, one of his officers said. Maybe, maybe not. Captain Deho is not a fool. He will not attack directly. He will try to delay the Korax until we arrive. Can he survive that long? Jian Seo did not answer. He did not know. Meanwhile, on the Steadfast, Ji-Eon picked up something on her sensors that made her heart beat faster. Captain, she said, I am receiving responses to your transmission. Deho turned to her. How many? Multiple ships, sir. The carrier Defiance is changing course. 3 destroyers are en route. Medical ships are heading to Relay 7. She looked at him with bright eyes. They are coming, Captain. They are all coming. Deho felt something warm in his chest. Pride, hope, gratitude. He had called into the darkness, and his people had answered. But then Ji-Eon's expression changed. Sir, I am also picking up Korax communications. They have detected us following them. What are they saying? They are amused, sir. They see we are only 1 ship. Their commander is ordering the fleet to turn around and deal with us. The warmth in Deho's chest turned cold. The hunters had become the hunted. How long until they reach us? 2 hours, sir. They are faster than we expected. 2 hours. The fleet would not arrive in time. The Steadfast would have to face 5 Korax raiders alone. Deho looked at his crew. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. They had chosen to follow him into this. They would see it through. Well, Deho said, I suppose we will have to keep them busy until help arrives. How? Su-Min asked. Deho smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. We are humans, he said. We are very good at being difficult to kill. The Steadfast continued to fly through the stars, toward a battle that no one expected them to survive. But somewhere behind them, more ships were coming. The Deathworlder Navy had heard the cry, and they were answering. The signal was weak. It was so weak that most ships would have missed it completely. But Lieutenant Park Ji-yeon was not like most communication officers. She had trained herself to hear what others could not. She sat at her station on the patrol vessel steadfast and listened to the empty space around them. That was when she heard it. "Captain," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "I have something." Captain Yoon Dae-ho turned from the main view screen. He was a tall man with gray in his hair and lines on his face that told stories of many years in space. His eyes were tired but sharp. "What is it, Lieutenant?" "A distress signal, sir. Very faint. I almost missed it." The bridge crew looked at each other. They were in the outer fringe, a forgotten part of space where nothing important ever happened. They had been on patrol for 3 weeks with nothing to report. Their supplies were running low, and they were scheduled to return to base in 2 days. Dae-ho walked to Ji-yeon's station. "Can you clean it up?" Ji-yeon's fingers moved across her console. The static slowly became clearer. It was not a human signal. The pattern was different, older. She had studied alien communication systems during her training, and she recognized this one. "It is Velis, sir," she said. "An emergency beacon. This design is very old. They only use it when everything else has failed." "Velis?" said Ensign Cho Tae-young from the medical station. "I thought they lived closer to the core systems." "Most do," Dae-ho replied. "But some have mining stations out here. They dig for crystals that are rare and valuable." He paused and looked at the star map on the main screen. "Where is it coming from?" Ji-yeon calculated the position. "A station called Relay 7, sir. It is 4 hours away at maximum speed." Sergeant Baek Soo-min, the head of security, stood up from her station. She was a strong woman with short hair and careful eyes. "Captain, that sector is dangerous. Pirates operate there. We are one patrol ship with limited weapons and low supplies. If we go there and find trouble, we cannot call for backup. We are too far from any other Terran vessel." "Ah." Dae-ho nodded slowly. Everything Soo-min said was true. The smart choice was to report the signal to command and continue their patrol. Someone else could investigate. Someone with more ships and more guns. But Dae-ho had not become a captain by making only smart choices. "Someone is asking for help," he said quietly. "That is enough for me." He turned to the helm officer. "Set course for Relay 7. Maximum speed." The Steadfast turned in the darkness of space and began to move toward the distant signal. The crew said nothing, but they understood. This was who they were. This was who their captain was. When someone called for help, they answered. The 4 hours passed slowly. Ji-yeon worked to learn more from the signal, but it was badly damaged. She could tell that it had been broadcasting for at least 2 days. That meant whatever had happened at Relay 7 was not new. The people there had been waiting for help that had not come. Why did no one else respond? Tae-young asked. Surely other ships heard the signal. The Velith are not important to most species, Dae-ho said. He stood at the view screen, watching the stars pass by. They are peaceful. They have no military. They trade their crystals for protection, but out here, there is no one to protect them. Other ships probably heard the signal and decided it was not their problem. That is terrible, Tae-young said. That is the galaxy, Simin replied. Her voice was hard, but her eyes were sad. Most species only help when there is something to gain. The Velith have nothing to offer a rescue ship. So no one comes. Ji-yin looked up from her console. We are coming. Yes, Dae-ho said. We are. The Steadfast dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Relay 7, and the crew saw what waited for them. The station hung in space like a wounded animal. Parts of it were dark. Other parts were damaged, with holes in the outer walls. Debris floated around it like a cloud of broken dreams. Life signs? Daeho asked. Tae-Young checked his sensors. Yes, sir. I am reading approximately 60 Velith inside the station. But the station was designed for 500. Where are the others? No one answered. They all knew the possibilities, and none of them were good. Jian scanned the area around the station. No other ships in the area, Captain. Whoever did this is gone. Daeho studied the damage on the station. The attack pattern was familiar. The holes in the walls were made by specific weapons. He had seen this kind of destruction before, in reports and images that kept him awake at night. Korax, he said. Suman's hands tightened into fists. Slavers. The Korax were one of the most hated species in the galaxy. They did not conquer planets or fight wars. They hunted people. They attacked weak colonies and stations, took the people they found, and sold them in the slave markets of the Void Belt. They were cruel and efficient, and they chose their targets carefully. They only attacked those who could not fight back. The Velith could not fight back. We need to board the station, Daeho said. There are survivors. They need our help? And the Korax? Sumin asked. They took what they came for and left. They will be heading to the Void Belt to sell their prisoners. Daeho's jaw was tight with anger. But first, we help the survivors. Then we decide what to do next. The Steadfast moved closer to the damaged station. A docking board on the station was still working, and the ship connected to it with a soft sound. The airlock opened, and the smell of smoke and fear came through. Daeho looked at his crew. These were good people. They had followed him into danger before, and they would do it again. He was proud of them. Su-Min, take a security team inside. Tae-Young, bring medical supplies. Ji-Yeon, stay here and keep scanning. If any ships approach, I want to know immediately. Yes, sir, they all said together. As Su-Min led the team toward the airlock. Daeho stopped her with a hand on her shoulder. Be gentle, he said. These people have been through something terrible. They need to know that help has finally come. Su-Min nodded. She understood. The airlock door opened, and the team stepped into the darkness of Relay 7. They did not know what they would find inside. They did not know that their actions in the next few hours would send ripples across the galaxy. They did not know that a desperate signal from a forgotten station would soon call the entire Deathworlder Navy. They only knew that someone had asked for help, and they had answered.